This is Call of Duty Ghosts. We're on Xbox One X, but it is not enhanced. We're actually getting a 720p resolution at 60 FPS. And yeah, I don't know what kind of drove me to wanting to take a look at this game, but I think it's because maybe we're at the end of the generation. And I just really do recall this one being an interesting start to things in terms of some of the technology and the ideas they were pushing with it. You know, we've got our dog pal here. There were special dynamic moving fish, and just interesting modes to it. I mean, we had the campaign here where it's set 10 years after a devastating event kind of really rocked the boundaries of the world. You kind of get to see a destroyed US, which I think is interesting. And then we've got the multiplayer, which was, you know, the new generation Call of Duty multiplayer. I played this on 360, and then I went over to the one, so it was actually like a big difference just in terms of like, you know, the quality then. But looking at it now, yeah, it's rather like ugly on the big 4K. But I mean, technology changes, right? And you get new standards and everything like that. And yeah, it's just really interesting to see it. Wow, I'm surprised we're jumping in here. Oh, look, there's the dog. You know, it is interesting to come back at this point and give it a look over, and then, you know, past the multiplayer, we've got the Extinction. We're going to show off a little bit of each of the modes, because I think that's kind of cool. We're getting our doggo buddy to go over there and tackle these guys. And it really has been a long time, and it's interesting to see, like, the evolution of the franchise over the years, and going back and revisiting the older Call of Duties just to get an idea of what they were like, because it has been so long. But yeah, I do remember actually kind of enjoying this one. I like the idea of the campaign. It sucks we're probably never really going to know, you know, where things were going to head with this one. So I think that's a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, I can see why. And it did have a lot of interesting changes and stuff like that for the series, but I think they could have maybe pushed, you know, the hardware a little bit more at the time, because yeah, the newer games look much better than this. But it does have some interesting large-scale destruction to it. I like the setting just in regards to, like, you know, the destruction, the context of the background, the state of the world at this point. You know, how that's affected things on a global scale. I just, such like unique little locations you're visiting. Some slightly, I guess you could say, futuristic aspects. Well, some are a little bit more than that, but you get the sense of it that they weren't really, you know, going too far-fetched at this point, and this is where things started to go a little bit off the rails in terms of, like, you know, the series and the content and all that. I really like this level. I picked this one because I remembered it being so, like, interesting, because you don't normally go in these kind of places. I do remember, yeah, actually being a little bit fun to have our little doggo pal. And it's very much your typical Call of Duty title. It's just got a little bit more of a, you know, sort of a calmer, I don't know what you would say, kind of stealth style to it. It is not necessarily the same as some of the other ones where it's all more action. I just thought the campaign had some neat stuff to it. But yeah, these visuals, they don't really hold up too well. Actually, it might be interesting to get like a remastering effort on this one next gen to see if they could push it a little bit further, but I doubt we'll kind of get that. This is very likely going to be one of those forgotten entries in the series, I'm thinking. That's probably just going to be the case with it. Looks like we got the remote sniper, but at that point, we're going to switch over to the multiplayer. So we're jumping into the multiplayer experience, and there's not a whole lot of people still playing this. You can still find some matches at this point, so I think that's kind of interesting. Now, I remember a lot from the multiplayer. Some of the big issues with this one were like the spawning and some of the map designs. But yeah, let's kind of get into the action here and showcase a bit of this before jumping over to Extinction. I did like the destruction of them, but I don't think there's really too many, or really any memorable maps from this game that, you know, I still am interested in today. Oh wow, that was instantly dead. I do remember my silly rubber duck thing, although I think I used the festive gun skin. This is when microtransactions were really, you know, kind of taking off and stuff like that. Just in regards to, like, the DLC. You could still actually straight up buy your what you wanted though, weapons wise. And I think that did change over time. I'm surprised there's still people kind of jumping in on this one, quite honestly. Where am I getting shot from? And this one had the slide in. Yeah, hopefully I don't get shot up too much, because I'm sure the people still playing this are actually like hardcore into this multiplayer. But yeah, it had a different type of experience with it, some different setups. They were trying this thing called squads, which is like a more competitive grouping thing, and I don't think that ever took off because you didn't really see it in any of the future Call of Duty games. So that's kind of a good indicator when things aren't going too well. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I'd say, a very typical sort of entry in the series. I think they kind of evolved some aspects of it, and they tried some different things with the overall like presentation of the multiplayer. And they had a wealth of modes that are present, and they kind of ended with that point. Oh, and the host migration, that was kind of a big deal. Was it this one they added in? It was one of them. Yeah, I remember the host migration aspect. That was nice. But yeah, I don't know what to say. It's kind of a bland multiplayer looking back, you know, from what we've seen over the years. I don't think it really stuck out too much, and I think that was a lot of the game, was it just wasn't quite as memorable of a title. Especially as time has gone by, you know, just in terms of like not being too blown away by the enhancements of it. But of course, every COD is a little bit of a step forward, and just kind of like the color palette and stuff of this, like really sort of bland looking. It's quite rough on the edges, and yeah, we're just kind of blasting and shooting folks in this. It's not a whole lot to talk about other than having some weird aspects to it. I do remember playing a lot of the objective-based modes, and I did appreciate them bringing back a number of the favorites and that. It just didn't seem like they really took things too far, or far enough in terms of being different, and it kind of promoted a lot of, I guess you could say, like you're seeing a little bit more camping, a lot more like spawn entrapment, and I just don't think they necessarily had the best flowing levels in terms of gameplay. Are these guys just kind of like camping here? Ugh, well, that's a little disappointing. But you do get lots of weird perks. They've got an interesting kind of customization class. I guess this was the first one where you can like change your soldiers' genders, so that's interesting to some degree, I suppose. I don't know. Just like Call of Duty Ghosts multiplayer. Not a whole lot to go over. I think maybe the strength of this game was perhaps the campaign, the narrative aspects of it, and multiplayer just being something that did have a lot of content, did have the extra, you know, DLC packs, the traditional DLC release schedule still, but with the Extinction being thrown in. I think Extinction's maybe memorable as being something that was a little bit different, right? Because, you know, we were seeing, like, we didn't want to see zombies and zombies over and over again, so they tried to do something a little bit new, and they tried to do something a little bit strange just in terms of, like, the missions there. And I think with that great segue, we're going to hop over and see, you know, kind of what kind of action we're going to be seeing with the Extinction mode and battling against a number of zombies. Why are they just lying down right in the open? That is just like the weirdest thing. And maybe it's been so long, but yeah, a lot of laying down and camping going on in this one. Oh look, they got an attack dog. That's kind of cool. I guess we'll go over here. We'll just finish off this life because you want to see the end of this trooper. Are they laying it around? I guess there's like the contextual leading and stuff was kind of cool. This was an advancement, I suppose, but yeah. So this is Extinction. We're just doing a multiplayer match of the classic one. You know, I took all this time to download all the DLC and everything again, but it just seems like people are really playing this one with a few in the other stuff. And I don't quite remember exactly what I'm supposed to do for everybody. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, lots of searching and stuff. Sorry, guys. I forget the smaller intricacies of the mode. So what you're doing is it's kind of like a bit of a play on zombies, right? But you're basically fighting these alien creatures. And you're doing that as a group. Were we supposed to have 4 people? Where'd the other guy go? And you're doing objectives along the way. You're not necessarily just, you know, trying to survive. You actually have a goal, a purpose of what you're trying to do here. And then they build like a narrative around it, so it has that aspect to it. And this one we're trying to like escape after we do that. You get skill points as you play. It kind of affects your character and your performance in the game as you're playing along. There is like a whole leveling system too as you go throughout it in the background. So there was like an in-depth level thing. It wasn't quite the same as, you know, looking at... Oh wow, a hypno knife. Nice. The flare's kind of cool. But yeah, it's not quite like zombies. It is a lot more of a focus thing. And I think the level thing was maybe a bit too much because it's a little bit harder to get into because you actually do spend time, you know, leveling, and then you get extra goals on each level too. You've seen that, like the challenges. So you try not to go into the last stand. Trying to get this kind of guy here. Oh, I totally botched the hypno knife. And then I just remember a lot of drilling and battling and trying to keep on fighting through some weird situations, intense cutscenes, and some kind of like almost over-the-top moments. Just some crazy kind of weird action. It was kind of a really strange mode, to be honest. I can see why they maybe haven't done anything like this again, because it kind of, you know, has such a weird concept to it. But I do definitely appreciate the fact that they were trying to do something that was a little bit different in, you know, in the game, aside from what we were just seeing with zombies. And they knew they needed a mode to kind of like compete with what Treyarch was doing there. And I'm not sure if this was the right direction for them, but it was kind of a cool direction because it is something a little bit so really unpredictable. Like, I don't think we really saw this coming, you know, towards the release of it. I thought it was something that was a little bit different and strange, and it's just got this cool co-op angle that does work well for it. I'm like just stabbing these guys away. I guess I could be buying something, but I'm just kind of just really cutting the aliens down. Yeah, I remember shooting these. They're not shooting, but well, I guess I did shoot a lot of these ugly things. But I think I spent more time in this than I necessarily even remember spending this much time in it. But no, I definitely do have some flashbacks of this one, some different tier kind of alien creatures you're dealing with. Automatic, yeah, okay. Stab you up and then getting more and more skill points, so you're a little bit tougher. Yeah, there was a lot of interesting complexities to this one. That's for sure, especially from the scavenging to just kind of moving around and doing your thing, working as a team. Looks like somebody already reloaded, buying those guns and just being like, this is like such a weird thing from zombies, because that's what we were kind of expecting, as I keep going back to that. But I think that was the general gist of what we were thinking was going to be happening going into this one way back in the day. But this is way different, way out of left field. Anyways, that's kind of the package of what Call of Duty Ghosts is at this point. I mean, there are still obviously people playing it, which is kind of cool. I didn't expect that. So you can jump in and play multiplayer. You can jump in and you can play Extinction fine. You can work through the campaign again if you find that interesting to some degree, like I did. I think the campaign had some interesting elements to it that were perhaps noteworthy, you know, something that should maybe not be forgotten in the Call of Duty years that go by. But yeah, I can see why the multiplayer does feel a little bit bland at this point, and the visuals of the game aren't really anything too impressive in comparison to what we got over the years, you know, the changes with the technology. But yeah, that is Call of Duty Ghosts.
Enemy SATCOM spotted. Hostile forces have juggernaut armor. Friendly SATCOM active. Enemy SATCOM spotted. Enemy SATCOM spotted.